chime in and ask your question, because we want a word, something to be said today to help you on your journey. Because the truth of the matter is that we're all on our individual journeys. We all have goals, we all have objectives. And sometimes life gets in the way and derails us.
I'm good.
So to start, body, mind, and spirit, the awakening. You know, why is it, how is it that I'm standing in front of you today? I've been in sales for the past 20-something years, and when you have a company credit card, you're always on the road, and somebody else is paying for your dinner. So you're eating too much of this, too much of that. So every year, about December, I would hit my goal of 34 inches. I'm like, I never go by size 35 pounds. I just wouldn't do it. So I kept getting up 34 waist, 34 waist, 34 waist, and kind of snug. And then one year, I'm like, hey, I really got to do something about this, because I keep doing it every single year. And then it just hit me that, you know, instead of doing this whole year, a lot of people start dieting and things of that nature. But it's like a yo-yo. They may lose weight and they gain it back. What's going on? And then one day I had a major epiphany that it's not just about dieting, it's not just about weight loss. It's about body, mind, and spirit, getting all three in sync. So one morning, you know, that's the beginning of the year, January, over a year ago, you know, started eating right after our Kwanzaa party. Every year we have an annual Kwanzaa party. So I told Angela, like, babe, I'm no longer eating that stuff. And she was on board. She's like, if you're not eating it, there's no reason for me to buy a lot of that stuff they have around the house. So by default, you know, she was on the journey as well, and she's been really supportive. So January, just started eating right and things of that nature. And that first mile, you know, working out, eating right, starting to run. And we haven't ran in a while. That first mile could be daunting. But after I got that first mile, you know, February 26th, I was running 4 miles every Saturday and Sunday. So February 26th, Angela had to meet her dad over in D.C. early one morning. So before the sun came up, I was out running. And I had gotten about a mile into this 4-mile journey. And I just entered what was like a transcendental zone. I was going to travel miles, not knowing how I had gotten there. And the only thought was on your mind that you have to write this book, Body, Mind, and Spirit. And after that 4 miles, usually I'm a little stiff or a little winded when I knock on the door. But this particular morning, after that, my last stride, I felt like I had just got out of bed. And I walked through the door February 26th, like, hey, babe, I think I'm going to write this book. And later that day, she went on to the grocery store and she brought a book home, like the first seed that she was able to sow into this whole thing. So that was February 26th. And I've always been a cerebral person, so I actually started writing the book in my mind. And knowing, a country boy at heart, knowing that April is the season that folks start planting seeds in order to get that harvest later, I said that on April 1, I would actually sit down at the computer and start writing this book, Body, Mind, and Spirit. Now, little caveat, never written a book before, never really read a lot of books before. But on April 1, I sat down at the computer and just started being led by the Holy Spirit, basically, just guide me. What is it that this book is going to be? What it's going to be about. But in order to get the knowledge, I had to read a lot. So over the next 6 or 7 months, I had a voracious appetite. When you saw me, usually I was reading something. You go into the library, a lot of those books, the body books, the mind book, the spirit book, I read all of those books in order to synthesize information and give it in plain folk speak so that people can understand what's going on. So sat down, April 1 at the computer, and 7 months later to the day, October 1, the book was done, I had it in hand, and I was giving my first talk about body, mind, and spirit. Now, those of you who studied the Word know that 7 basically is the number of completion. That's God's number. So from the beginning, I always knew that God was all over this thing, and I just had to be obedient. Because a lot of times initially when you tell folks that you're going to write a book, everyone said they're going to write a book. Everyone wants a book because we all have an individual story that's inside of us. So everyone has a book inside of them. But a lot of times, folks have been trying to write a book for the past 10 to 15 years. So I told folks that, hey, I'm going to write a book. We got a Facebook group, started Body, Mind, and Spirit, The Awakening on Facebook. Told folks, I'm going to start writing this book. And sure enough, 7 months later, that book was done. It was out there. And I was just basically just spreading the word about body, mind, and spirit. So what is it all about? You know, see, some of you have the book that's out there, and that's a beautiful thing. But as a little synopsis of what body, mind, and spirit is all about, it's about 333 pages. Once again, that's not a mistake. 333 pages exactly. That's what God gave me. And when I was doing some research, because I've always had a career in sales and marketing, and when you're going to write a book, the ideal size for any book is going to be a 6 by 9. You know, it fits nicely on shelves, and I was like, okay, body, mind, and spirit, it'll be a 6 by 9 as well. But this is what God gave me. And I could not put this book into a 6 by 9 because it would have been about that thick. And that's a bit intimidating for a lot of folks to read. So the 8 by 10, that's what God gave me, 333 pages. But body, mind, and spirit. briefly I'll talk about the 3 separate sections, because that's how the book is cut up. The body part. How do we take care of the body? Number one is what we put into the body, the foods that we eat. Now, there are a bunch of diets out there. Some of you may have tried Weight Watchers. Some of you may have tried Atkins diet and things of that nature. And a lot of times those diets don't work because they're too restrictive. We like what we like and we want to eat what we want to eat. But the truth, we don't know that we're a lot of times we are at. When we have, someone has an alcohol problem or someone has a drug problem, that's easy to see. But the food industry has basically made us carbohydrates and sugar addicts, and we don't even know it. High fructose corn syrup that we're putting in our drinks and things of that nature, they try to say that it's just like regular sugar, but it's not. It's a man-made thing, and the body doesn't know how to process these man-made things. So when it comes to the body, number one thing is what to put into the body. And in the book, I'm like, I looked out all these diets, and I'm like, the best things to eat, if you can eat these things 80% of the time, then 20% you can eat whatever you want, but 80% of the time, if you're eating things that consist of the acronym, God has power, you're going to be well on your way. And the God has power acronym, and it's in the book, but the G is for green, leafy vegetables. The greener, the better. A lot of times when we eat salads, they put the iceberg lettuce that's on salad, but iceberg lettuce has no nutritional value. So if anything, you want like the spinach, and the greener, the better when it comes to what you're eating. The O, and God has power. The O is for oatmeal. The Quaker oats is a great thing. You want fiber and things of that nature. If you really don't like oatmeal, I used to think I didn't like oatmeal as well, but there are ways to put some stuff into it, you put fruit into it, and also you can mix oatmeal and yogurt and have like a muesli combination and throw some fruit in there. That's a great thing. So oats, things of that nature. D, there's no way to get away from dairy. Dairy is all around us. But when you're consuming dairy, it's best to do a low-fat a low-fat or no-fat dairy option. And a little side note about dairy. A lot of times the foods that we eat, basically, they're marketing campaigns. And if you pause and think about it when it comes to dairy, man is the only animal in the world that continues to consume dairy products as an adult. No other species does it. And we are, a lot of times we don't know it, 70% of the population, we're lactose intolerant and don't even know it. So when you're eating ice cream or milk,